The river's roar drowned every sound except her frantic whisper, "You must marry me now or we both get killed." His hand still trembled from pulling her out of the current, but her eyes, dark, unyielding, burned with a terror he didn't understand. What law, what punishment could force such a demand? And why did her life, and his, suddenly depend on it? The canyon sun was merciless that day, turning the river into shards of blinding light. Nathan Hale, a ranch hand with little more than dust on his boots and silence in his heart, had been riding the edge of the cliffs when he spotted movement below. At first, it looked like driftwood tossed by the current. But then he saw her, an Apache woman fighting against the swollen waters, her arms flailing, her voice carried away by the roar. He didn't think, he only moved. Scrambling down the jagged rock, he tore his hands open on the shale, boots slipping until he plunged waist-deep into the freezing water. She vanished once beneath the surface, and for a breathless instant, Nathan feared he'd lost her. Then his fingers brushed against her arm, slick with mud and desperation. He heaved her toward the bank, dragging both their bodies into the shallows, lungs burning. She collapsed beside him, coughing river water, clutching the fabric tied hastily across her chest. Her breathing steadied, but the moment her eyes locked onto his, the air between them changed. Gratitude was not what he found there. It was something heavier, fear sharpened by urgency. "You must marry me now," she said, her voice hoarse but certain, "or we both get killed." Nathan blinked, still gasping. He thought he'd misheard, but her tone left no room for doubt. Around them, the canyon walls trapped the echo of her words like a warning. He sat back on his heels, trying to catch sense where none was to be found. "What are you talking about?" he asked, though his voice cracked under the weight of his confusion. Her hand shook as she gripped his sleeve, nails digging through the damp fabric. "They saw us, the men of my people. If they believe you've touched me, if they think I've been dishonored without marriage, their law says I must die, and you with me." Nathan's stomach tightened. The river had nearly claimed her life, and now something else, something older, carved into law and custom, threatened to finish what the waters couldn't. He glanced at the cliffs above, suddenly aware of how exposed they were. He didn't see anyone watching, but her words rang too sharp, too certain. Somewhere, out of sight, judgment was already waiting. Nathan's pulse hammered louder than the river still swirling behind them. He stared at her, chest heaving, water dripping from his hair into his eyes. "Marry you? Now? You don't even know me." The woman's grip only tightened, her dark eyes fierce beneath wet strands of hair. "Names don't matter. What matters is survival. If they think you saved me and left me unclaimed, I am nothing. And nothing must be erased." He swallowed, unsure whether her words were threat or plea. "Who are they?" Her gaze flicked toward the canyon ridge. "My clan, my uncles, my cousins. Men who carry rifles and knives sharper than this river's edge. Men who watched. Men who will decide whether I live or die tonight." Nathan followed her stare, scanning the jagged horizon. Nothing moved, but the skin on his neck prickled. He had lived enough years in border country to know eyes could hide behind rock and shadow. "I pulled you from drowning," he muttered, as if reason might break through. "That can't be a crime." Her laugh came bitter, short. "Among your people, maybe not. Among mine, what they saw means shame, unless you claim me, unless I claim you. Marriage is the only shield." The word marriage cut into Nathan like a knife. He had ridden from ranch to ranch his whole life, never staying long, never binding himself to anyone. He wasn't the kind of man to settle, yet here she was, demanding something he could neither grasp nor refuse. "What's your name?" he asked at last. "Chenoa," she said. Her voice softened only for that word, then sharpened again. "Say it. Let them hear." Nathan licked his lips. His throat felt dry despite the river soaking him. "Chenoa." Her shoulders eased slightly, as if the sound itself gave her strength. But the relief was brief. She rose shakily, clutching the rough blanket to her chest. "We must move. If they come down and find us here, unbound, it will be too late." Nathan hesitated. "Move where?" "To the council fire. she said flatly. To speak the vow before witnesses. Only then will they let us walk away alive. He pushed himself up, boots squelching in the mud. And if I refuse? Her eyes hardened. Then I die. And they will not spare you either. Mercy is not for outsiders. Silence stretched between them, filled with the hiss of water on stone. Nathan searched her face, wondering if this was madness born of fear, or if unseen rifles already had him in their sights. A sudden crack split the air, not thunder, a rifle shot. Stone chipped off the canyon wall inches from his head. Chenoa flinched but didn't scream. Instead, she seized his hand. "They wait for your answer," she hissed. Nathan's jaw locked, breath ragged. The rifle shot had spoken louder than her words. Whoever they were, they weren't bluffing. He looked at her, at the defiance blazing in her soaked figure, at the desperation hidden just beneath. His mind raced. Was this a trap? A ritual forced on a stranger? Or was it truly the only thread keeping them both alive? Above them, the echo of the shot faded. But the silence that followed was heavier, more dangerous. Nathan's voice came low, almost broken. "Then lead the way, Chenoa." She squeezed his hand once, not in tenderness, but in grim acknowledgement. "Do not falter. Do not speak more than needed. Walk as if you already chose." Together they stepped from the shallows toward the dry canyon path, their wet footprints already marking a trail. Nathan felt eyes tracking every step. At the bend of the trail he dared glance upward. For a heartbeat, a silhouette appeared against the ridge, a man holding a rifle, face hidden by distance, still as stone. Then he vanished. The path wound upward, carved into the canyon like a scar. Nathan's boots slipped on loose shale, but Chenoa moved with surprising certainty, her bare feet finding holds he never saw. She kept his hand locked in hers, a tether he dared not break. "I've done this before," he muttered. Her reply was cold. "I've walked this ground my whole life, but never as I walk it now." Each turn of the path seemed narrower, the silence deeper. Nathan's mind burned with questions. Who fired the shot? What law demanded this marriage? Whether he'd survive the hour? But Chenoa's grip warned him, "Don't ask, don't slow." At the top of the ridge, the land opened into a flat stretch of rock overlooking the valley. There, a fire burned low, smoke curling into the blue sky. Around it stood 6 figures, all Apache men, rifles slung or resting in their hands. Their faces were unreadable masks of shadow and flame. Nathan's stomach clenched. These weren't boys playing sentry. They were warriors, and they had already judged him. Chenoa lifted her chin, stepping forward with no hesitation. Her voice carried, sharp and defiant. "He saved me from the river. He is my husband now." The tallest of the men spat into the dust. "You speak too quickly, girl. A word cannot make a vow." Chenoa's eyes flashed. "A vow has weight only if lived, and I will live with him. Will you kill me for being alive?" Nathan felt the men's eyes shift to him, their silence heavy as stone. His mouth was dry, but he forced words through it. "She speaks truth. I pulled her from the water. If my hands dishonored her, then let my voice bind us." One of the men, older, scarred across the cheek, stepped closer. He studied Nathan as though weighing his soul. "Do you even know her name?" Nathan hesitated, then steadied. "Chenoa." The man stare did not soften. "And yours?" "Nathan Hale." The name seemed to ripple among them, meaningless yet marked. The eldest raised his chin. "Words are smoke. If you claim her, you claim our law. You claim our wrath if you falter." Chenoa's hand trembled in Nathan's, but her voice cut firm. "I chose him. He chose me. Spill blood if you wish, but you cannot wash away what already is." The circle of men murmured, some with contempt, others with curiosity. At last, the scarred elder pointed to the fire. "Then stand before it. Speak your vow as flame bears witness. If you lie, fire will consume you both." Nathan's breath hitched. He didn't know their language of ritual, their exact words, their unseen traps, but the rifles at the edge of the fire left no room for doubt. He stepped forward, Chenoa beside him, the smoke burning his throat. Chenoa whispered so low only he heard, "Repeat after me. Trust me." He nodded once. She raised her voice. strong despite the quiver in it. I bind my life to his, in hunger, in thirst, in exile, in death, Nathan echoed, each syllable scraping raw. I bind my life to hers, in hunger, in thirst, in exile, in death. The fire snapped, sparks flying into the air. The men watched, unmoving. Chenoa continued, "If I betray him, let the earth swallow me." Nathan's voice shook, but he repeated, "If I betray her, let the earth swallow me." A silence fell, thick and suffocating. Nathan's heart pounded so hard he feared it would give him away. The elder leaned on his rifle, eyes narrowing. "So be it. But a vow without proof is air. Tomorrow at dawn she will enter his house. If she stands there still, untouched by fear, then your marriage lives. If not," he gestured to the rifles, "your lives end." Nathan's stomach turned to stone. Proof. Dawn. What did they expect? Submission? Intimacy? Obedience? He stole a glance at Chenoa, but her face gave nothing away. She only whispered again, too soft for the others, "Do not fear the night. Fear only what comes after." Nathan swallowed hard, forcing himself to meet the elder's stare. "Then we will stand at dawn." The rifles lowered slightly, but the fire popped loud, as if mocking him, and in that moment, Nathan realized the trial had only begun. The fire's glow faded as the men dispersed into the darkness, rifles slung across their shoulders. They didn't leave far. Nathan could feel their presence circling the ridge like wolves, silent but near. He and Chenoa were led to a crude shelter, little more than a lean-to of brush and rock, placed deliberately in sight of the flames. It wasn't a refuge, it was a cage with invisible bars. Nathan crouched inside, wringing water from his shirt. His muscles still ached from the river, but his mind refused rest. "Tomorrow at dawn," he muttered. "What happens if we fail their test?" Chenoa sat across from him, arms wrapped tightly around her knees, blanket still clutched to her chest. "They will kill us both." Her tone was flat, unshaken, as if she had rehearsed this truth all her life. Nathan's jaw tightened. "And what does fail mean? What are they looking for?" Her eyes flicked toward the fire outside, where shadows of the warriors passed like ghosts. "They will look for fear. If I recoil from you, if you flinch from me, they will see weakness. To them, marriage is not spoken in words. It is lived in the body, in the way two stand together." Nathan's stomach churned. "So I have to play the husband. You have to play the wife. In front of men who want an excuse to bury us." Chenoa nodded once. "Exactly." A silence stretched, broken only by the night wind. Nathan studied her face in the dim light. She was young, but not fragile. There was iron in her voice, steel in her gaze. Yet beneath that strength, he caught flickers of something else, weariness, perhaps grief. He wanted to ask what she had endured to carry such fire, but the words died in his throat. Instead, he whispered, "Why risk this? Why not let the river take you?" Her head turned sharply, eyes glinting. "Because I do not yield to water, nor to men who think I am theirs to punish." She leaned closer, voice low, urgent. "And neither should you. If you walk away from this night, it is because you stood. If you fall, it is because you doubted. Do you understand?" Nathan swallowed. He did. Hours passed in tense silence. Outside, the warriors murmured in Apache, their voices drifting like smoke. Nathan caught fragments he couldn't translate, but their laughter, low, cruel, carried easily. They weren't betting on survival. They were waiting for failure. At some point, Chenoa leaned back against the wall of brush, her body taut with exhaustion. "Sleep if you can," she murmured. Nathan almost laughed. Sleep, with rifles waiting to judge his every breath. But her calm steadied him. He stretched out, boots still on, revolver near his hand. His eyes closed only in fragments, mind circling the same questions. Why him? Why her? And what game of law or vengeance bound them so tightly? A sharp noise jolted him awake. Footsteps, too close. He reached for his revolver, but Chenoa's hand pressed his wrist down. "Don't," she whispered. A shadow loomed at the edge of the lean-to. One of the younger warriors crouched low, face half hidden in the moonlight. He held no rifle, only a knife glinting at his side. His eyes flicked to Chenoa, then to Nathan, and back again. "She was promised," the man hissed in broken English. His voice carried the venom of a personal wound. "Promised to me. You steal what is mine." Chenoa's jaw clenched. "I was never yours, Toby." The knife twitched in his grip. Nathan's muscles coiled, ready, but Chenoa's steady hand still held him back. "Not yet," she mouthed. The warrior's stare burned into Nathan. "At dawn, you die. I will see it done." Then, as silently as he came, he vanished into the night. Nathan's chest heaved. "Promise to him," he whispered harshly. Chenoa turned her face away. "It doesn't matter. The hell it doesn't. If this is about him, then tomorrow isn't judgment, it's execution." Her voice cracked for the first time, a tremor breaking through her steel. "Do you think I chose this? That I wanted your hands to pull me from that river? I asked for life, and life came, but life comes with enemies." Nathan fell silent, the weight of her words pressing on him. Whatever bound her fate had now bound his. The night dragged on thick with unspoken truths. Nathan barely closed his eyes again. When the first grey light touched the ridge, the sound of drums broke the silence. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat that wasn't theirs. Chenoa stood, shoulders squared, eyes fixed on the fire. "It is dawn." Nathan rose beside her, revolver hidden at his side, heart pounding like the drums. Outside, the warriors gathered once more, rifles in hand. The scarred elder stepped forward, gaze like stone. "Now we see if your vow lives in your flesh." Nathan felt the circle close around them, the flames rising higher, the air thick with judgment. And as Chenoa reached for his hand, her fingers steady, despite the tremor in his hand, he realized this was not about marriage, not about honor. This was about survival in a world where love was just another word for war. The elder lifted his hand. "Show us." The circle of men closed tighter, their faces half lit by the flames. Smoke curled into the morning air, mixing with the pounding of the drums. Nathan could feel the weight of a dozen eyes on him, each one sharp as a blade. The scarred elder spoke first, voice like gravel. "You claimed the vow, but words are nothing. We see with our eyes, not our ears. Show us your bond. Show us she is not ashamed." Chenoa's grip on Nathan's hand tightened. She stepped forward, shoulders back, chin raised. Without hesitation, she lifted his hand and pressed it to her heart. The gesture was simple, but her eyes burned with defiance. "I am not ashamed." A ripple went through the circle. Some nodded, some scoffed, others spat into the dust. Then a voice broke through, filled with venom. "She lies." Toby stepped into the firelight, his knife gleaming at his belt. His young face twisted with rage, but his stance was proud, daring anyone to silence him. "She was promised to me. Her father spoke it. Her life is mine, and this outsider steals it with false vows." The circle stirred, voices rising in debate. Some muttered agreement, others shook their heads. The elder raised his hand, demanding silence, but Toby pressed on. "Test them," he said, eyes flashing. "If he claims her, let him fight for her. Or let him die and end this farce." Nathan felt his stomach clench. He had fought before, ranch disputes, drunken brawls, but this was different. This was no fight he could walk away from. One wrong move, and he'd be dead before he hit the ground. The elder studied him, then looked to Chenoa. "Do you deny this man's claim?" Her voice cut the air clean. "I was never his. I choose my own fate." Gasps rippled through the circle. For a woman to reject such a promise so openly was more than defiance. It was a challenge to tradition itself. Toby snarled, hand on his knife, "Then let her fate be carved in blood." The elder's eyes hardened, but he did not stop him. Instead, he gave a slow nod. "The fire sees truth in combat. If you would claim her, fight." Nathan's chest tightened. He had no choice. He stepped forward, boots heavy in the dirt, eyes locked on Toby. His revolver weighed at his side, but he knew using it here would mean instant death by the rifles surrounding him. This fight would be bare hands, or steel if Toby forced it. Toby circled, knife drawn, eyes gleaming with hatred, Nathan kept his fists raised, body tense, every instinct screaming for survival. "You don't belong here," Toby hissed. "You don't belong with her." Nathan's voice came steady despite the fear. "Then prove it." The fight erupted fast. Toby lunged, blade slashing. Nathan dodged, the steel grazing his sleeve. He countered with a hard right, fist slamming into Toby's jaw. The younger man stumbled, but his fury only grew. The circle shouted, voices urging blood, urging victory. The drums quickened, echoing Nathan's racing heart. Chenoa stood at the fire's edge, eyes locked on them, her body rigid, but her gaze unbroken. She didn't cry out, didn't beg. She watched, as if her life hung not on his strength but on his resolve. Toby lunged again, knife flashing downward. Nathan grabbed his wrist, struggling as the blade inched closer to his chest. The crowd roared, dust rising around them. With a surge of desperate strength, Nathan twisted, driving his shoulder into Toby's chest. The knife flew from his grip, clattering to the ground, but Toby wasn't finished. He swung wild, fists cracking against Nathan's ribs. Pain shot through him, breath burning. He staggered, nearly falling, but he held his ground. Nathan's eyes flicked to the knife lying in the dust. Toby saw it too, diving for it. Without thinking, Nathan tackled him, both men crashing into the dirt. They grappled, rolling dangerously close to the fire. Sparks flew as Toby's hand stretched toward the blade. And then Chenoa's voice cut through the chaos. "Enough!" The word struck sharper than steel. The circle fell silent. Even Toby froze, panting, his hand inches from the knife. She stepped into the ring, pulling Nathan to his feet. Her voice carried like thunder. "I chose him. If you spill his blood, you spill mine. Do you dare kill the woman you claim to protect?" The men shifted uneasily. Some lowered their eyes. Others looked to the elder for judgment. The scarred man studied Nathan, then Chenoa, then the restless crowd. At last, he raised his hand. "The fire has seen enough. The vow stands." Nathan exhaled, legs trembling, ribs aching. Toby snarled, rage still burning, but the rifles of the older warriors warned him into silence. The circle broke, the drums slowing to a stop, but Nathan knew this wasn't over. The fire had granted him survival for now. As Chenoa gripped his arm, steadying him, she whispered only for him to hear, "You won today. But the night will come again." The circle scattered, but the air remained thick with smoke and suspicion. Nathan's ribs throbbed from the blows, each breath sharp as broken glass. Chenoa guided him back to the lean-to, her hand firm on his arm, her face unreadable in the flickering dawn. "You fought well," she said softly. Nathan grimaced. "I fought desperate. There's a difference." She pressed a folded strip of cloth against his side. "Desperation keeps men alive." Her touch was careful, precise, as if she had done this 100 times. He studied her in silence, struck by how calm she seemed after the chaos. The firelight revealed the faint scar along her jaw, half hidden beneath strands of black hair. He wanted to ask its story, but something in her eyes warned him not to. "You knew he would challenge me," Nathan said finally. Her hands stilled, but she didn't look up. "Toby is proud. He believed my father's word gave him rights over me. Your presence tore that apart. He will not forgive." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Then I should have ended it, taken him down for good." Her eyes snapped up, sharp as flint. "And what then? You kill him, his kin kill you, his blood would poison your vow. Do not think like an outsider. Here, mercy binds tighter than death." Nathan stared at her, unsettled. He had lived by simple rules: survive, fight if cornered, walk away when it was done. But her world was different, bound by unseen cords of law, shame, and pride. He wasn't sure he could walk those cords without falling. Outside, the sound of voices rose, men murmuring low, the clatter of weapons being checked. Chenoa's eyes flicked toward the noise. "They are not done watching. Every step you take is still a test." Nathan exhaled slowly. "Then tell me what comes next." She hesitated, then spoke. "Tonight, you will sleep in my father's lodge. If I remain there at dawn, unafraid, they will accept the marriage. If I flee, or if you do, they will hunt us both." Nathan frowned. "And your father? What will he say to all this?" Chenoa's voice turned bitter. "He sold me like cattle. His words are nothing now, but his silence can still cut. The weight of her truth settled on Nathan. He remembered her trembling in the river, the way she demanded his vow, and now he saw the full shape of her courage, not just survival, but defiance of those who would chain her. Hours dragged by. Nathan dozed in and out, ribs screaming each time he shifted. Chenoa kept watch, never fully resting, her eyes fixed on the shadows. When evening came, 2 warriors appeared at the lean-to. Their faces gave nothing away. "Come," one said curtly. They followed through the village, low lodges scattered beneath the cliffs, smoke rising from cooking fires, children darting between shadows. Nathan felt every eye on him, measuring, doubting, condemning. Beside him, Chenoa walked tall, her blanket drawn tight, her chin high. They stopped before a larger lodge at the center. The warriors gestured, "Enter." Inside, the air was heavy with smoke and herbs. An older man sat cross-legged near the fire, hair streaked with gray, eyes bloodshot from drink. Nathan recognized him even before Chenoa's body stiffened. Her father. The man sneered, his gaze sliding over Nathan like he was dirt. "So this is the one, the stranger who stole what was mine to give." Chenoa's voice was sharp. "I was never yours to give." The man's lip curled, but he didn't strike her. Instead, he turned his glare on Nathan. "You think you save her? You think marriage makes her yours? She will break you before the moon fades." Nathan felt the anger rise, but Chenoa's hand brushed his arm, a silent warning. He bit back his words, staring into the fire instead. Her father spat into the flames. "Sleep here, then. At dawn we will see who still stands." The warriors left them alone. Nathan lowered himself near the fire, ribs aching, while Chenoa sat across from him. The silence between them was heavy, filled with smoke and the ghost of her father's hatred. Finally, Nathan spoke. "If we survive this, what happens after?" Chenoa's eyes held his. "Then we walk away, together or apart, but alive." Nathan wanted to believe her, but as he lay back, staring at the lodge's dark roof, he couldn't shake the feeling that survival was a thread already fraying. Outside, the night deepened. Footsteps circled the lodge. Voices whispered in the dark. Nathan reached for his revolver, fingers brushing the worn grip, and then a sharp sound, the scrape of metal against wood. Someone was trying to force their way inside. The scrape came again, slow, deliberate, like steel teasing against wood. Nathan's hand closed on the revolver, breath sharp in his chest. He glanced at Chenoa. Her posture was rigid, eyes narrowed toward the door. She didn't move, didn't blink. "Stay behind me," Nathan whispered. But she shook her head. "No, if they test you, they test me too." The hide flap lifted, shadows spilling into the lodge. A figure slipped inside, crouched low, knife gleaming faint in the firelight. Nathan raised the revolver, cocking the hammer with a click that echoed like thunder in the stillness. "Stop where you are." The intruder froze. Then the firelight caught his face. Toby. His eyes blazed, lips pulled into a snarl. "Coward! You hide behind her father's fire, behind foreign steel. Step outside. Face me like a man." Nathan's grip on the revolver tightened. He wanted to end it right there. One shot, one less threat. But the weight of the Circle's law pressed down on him. A bullet now would damn them both. Chenoa's voice cut through the air. "Leave it, Toby. This fight is over." Toby spat at her feet. "Over? You think words and fire make him your husband? He is nothing. He will run before dawn, and you will crawl back to me in shame." Nathan stepped forward, revolver steady. "Try me." Toby's gaze flicked to the weapon, then back to Nathan's eyes. "You can't kill me. Not here. Not under their watch. You know it." He wasn't wrong. Nathan felt the tremor in his hand, not from fear, but from the trap closing tighter. He lowered the barrel slightly, forcing calm into his voice. "You want me broken?" "But not tonight." Chenoa rose, stepping between them, her body a wall of defiance. "If you strike him, you strike me. Is that the warrior you are, Toby? To kill a woman, to reach a man?" The insult landed like a slap. Toby's face twisted, rage choking him. For a heartbeat, Nathan thought he would lunge anyway, But footsteps sounded outside. 2 warriors approaching. Their shadows loomed at the door. Toby sheathed his knife in one swift motion, slipping back into the darkness like a snake. The flap fell shut just as the warriors entered, spears in hand. They scanned the room, eyes settling on Nathan's drawn revolver. Nathan holstered it slowly. "A shadow came near," he said, voice calm. The men exchanged looks but asked no questions. They turned and left without a word, the flap falling behind them. The silence that followed was heavier than the smoke. Nathan exhaled, lowering himself to the floor, ribs throbbing. Chenoa remained standing, her fists tight at her sides. "He will not stop," she whispered. Nathan rubbed his eyes. "Then we'll be ready." She looked at him then, something soft breaking through the steel in her gaze. "You think this is only his anger, but it is more. My father gave his word to Toby's family. By defying it, we challenge not just a man, but blood itself." Nathan's jaw clenched. "So tomorrow at dawn, it's not just proving us, it's surviving them." Chenoa nodded slowly. "Yes, the council may speak peace, but the night has its own law." Hours dragged on. The fire burned low, casting long, crooked shadows on the lodge walls. Nathan fought sleep, ears tuned to every scrape of wind, every murmur outside. Chenoa sat close to the flames, her blanket drawn tight, her face carved in resolve. At one point, Nathan broke the silence. "Why did you choose me?" Her head turned, eyes glinting. "Because you didn't look away. Every other man turned their face when my father raised his voice. You didn't. That is enough." He absorbed her words, unsure if they were comfort or burden. But he couldn't deny the truth. One moment of instinct had tied his fate to hers forever. The night deepened, still and watchful. Nathan drifted on the edge of sleep, revolver across his lap. Then a sudden sound snapped him awake, soft footsteps circling the lodge, stopping, then moving again. Chenoa stiffened. "They test us again." The hide flap lifted. A different figure entered, older, slower, the scarred elder himself. His gaze swept the room, settling on Nathan. "The fire still lives," he said. "Good. Dawn comes soon." His eyes shifted to Chenoa, and for the first time his voice softened. "Daughter of the river, your vow is a storm. But storms break mountains." He turned, leaving as silently as he had entered. Nathan stared at the empty doorway, unease gnawing at him. What did he mean by that? Chenoa's lips pressed tight. "It means the trial at dawn will not be words. It will be blood again." Outside, the first grey light touched the ridge. Drums began to beat once more, low and steady. Nathan rose, revolver heavy at his side, heart pounding. Chenoa took his hand, her grip steady. "This is the moment. If you falter now, we both die." The flap lifted again and 2 warriors gestured them out. The circle awaited. The fire burned higher than before, and standing across from it, knife gleaming in his hand, was Toby. The circle gathered tighter than before, their voices hushed, eyes gleaming in the fire's reflection. Drums pounded like a heartbeat, slow and deliberate, carrying the weight of judgment. Nathan stood at Chenoa's side, ribs aching, revolver holstered but useless here. All eyes were on him, and on her. Toby stepped forward, knife flashing in his grip. His young face bore no fear, only fury. He pointed the blade at Nathan. "One night under the fire means nothing. This stranger is no husband. He cannot protect her. He cannot hold her against our law. Let him prove it, here, before us all." A murmur rippled through the circle. Some nodded, others remained silent, waiting for the elder's word. The scarred leader stepped into the light. His voice carried like thunder across stone. "The fire tests once, but the fire accepts challenge. If she is truly his, let her stand with him. If he falters, both die." Nathan's chest tightened. Again, no choice. He had walked into their world, and now every step meant survival or death. Chenoa raised her voice, calm but firm. "If he fights, I fight. His strength is mine and mine is his." The elder studied her, then gave a single nod. "So be it." The circle widened into a ring. The drums quickened, filling the air with dread. Toby moved like a predator, shoulders squared, knife gleaming. Nathan had no blade, only fists and will. Chenoa whispered, low enough for him alone. Do not match his rage, hold steady. They watch not your strength, but your bond. The fight erupted with a sudden lunge. Toby swung low, blade slicing air. Nathan dodged, pain shooting through his ribs, then countered with a hard blow to the jaw. Dust rose, voices roared, the drums pounded faster. Toby came again, knife flashing. Nathan caught his wrist, twisting with all his weight. The blade fell, clattering into the dirt. For a moment, relief surged. Then Toby slammed a knee into his gut, knocking the wind from him. Nathan staggered back, vision blurred. The crowd shouted, half cheering, half jeering. Chenoa's voice cut through the noise. Stand, Nathan, stand! He drew breath through clenched teeth, forcing his body upright. Toby charged again, fists wild. Nathan blocked, countered, each strike fueled by desperation. But his strength waned. The knife glinted on the ground, inches from Toby's hand. Chenoa moved. She stepped into the ring, standing between them, her body a shield. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Toby froze, chest heaving, eyes burning. Move aside. Her voice was iron. If you strike him, you strike me. Our vow is one. The silence that followed was electric. Nathan's breath rasped, his fist still raised, but all eyes were on Chenoa. She lifted Nathan's hand, placing it firmly against her chest. I am not ashamed. The elder's gaze sharpened, measuring. Around the circle, rifles shifted, but did not rise. Toby trembled with fury, but the law of witnesses bound him tighter than rope. At last, the elder raised his hand. The fire has seen. Their bond stands. Enough. The drums stopped. The silence felt heavier than the sound. Toby's chest heaved, his fists trembling. His eyes darted from Nathan to Chenoa, hatred cutting deeper than any knife. This is not over, he spat. I will see his blood spill, vow or no vow. The elder's voice cut him down. Your challenge failed. Your words mean nothing now. Toby's face twisted with rage, but he backed into the shadows, knife still clenched. The circle broke slowly, some men turning away in acceptance, others watching with suspicion. Nathan's knees threatened to buckle, but Chenoa's hand steadied him. She guided him toward the fire, whispering, Do not falter now. Walk as husband. Walk as one of us. He straightened, forcing strength into his steps, though every muscle screamed. Together, they crossed the ring, their shadows cast long against the flames. But as they left the circle, Nathan caught sight of Toby at the edge of the crowd, knife glinting once more in the dim light. His lips moved silently, a promise only Nathan could read. This is not finished. Nathan's pulse hammered. The fire had granted survival, for now. But the night beyond the flames promised a reckoning still to come. The fire died low, embers glowing red in the ash. One by one, the warriors drifted back into the shadows, their faces still carved with doubt. Nathan felt their eyes linger even as they turned away, as if every step he took was still being weighed. Chenoa guided him through the dark toward her father's lodge. He leaned heavier on her arm than he wanted, ribs burning from the blows, but she didn't falter. Her grip was steady, unyielding. You held your ground, she said softly. Nathan exhaled a bitter laugh. Barely. Her lips curved faintly, the closest thing to a smile he'd seen. Barely is enough. Inside the lodge, the fire smoldered low. Her father sat slumped in the corner, a jug at his side, eyes bloodshot. He didn't look up as they entered, only spat into the dirt and muttered, Shame. Chenoa stiffened, but didn't answer. She led Nathan to the far side, settling him near the fire. He winced as he lowered himself, the pain sharp, but he forced silence through clenched teeth. He would not give her father the satisfaction of hearing weakness. Chenoa knelt beside him, tearing a strip from her blanket. She dipped it in water and pressed it gently against his ribs. You should rest. Nathan studied her face in the flicker of firelight, strong, defiant, but younger than her eyes betrayed. And you, he asked. I do not rest when knives circle in the dark, she murmured. He almost smiled. Then we're alike. For a moment, the silence between them softened. The crackle of fire filled the space where words could not. Nathan wanted to ask her about her life before the river, before the vow, but he held his tongue. She had given him her strength. Her story would come when she chose. Outside, the village had quieted, but the night still carried whispers. Nathan heard footsteps pass, low voices in Apache too quick for him to understand. Every sound tightened his chest. Every shadow felt like Toby's knife waiting. Hours later, when the fire burned down to coals, Nathan stirred. "Why didn't you tell me before that you were promised to him?" Her hand stilled on the cloth. She didn't look at him. "Because promises made without my voice are chains. Chains I chose to break." Nathan nodded slowly. He recognized that tone, defiance hammered into strength. He had lived years wandering from place to place, free in body but chained by silence. Now he sat beside a woman who bore chains far heavier and yet carried them with pride. At length, she added, "Toby will not stop. He lost before the fire, but he will try again, in shadow, in silence." Nathan's hand drifted to the revolver at his side. "Then I'll be ready." Her eyes met his, dark and steady. Not steel. Resolve, that is what they watch. If you flee, if you falter, then the vow breaks. And both of us die. He swallowed, forcing a grim smile. So no pressure. Chenoa almost laughed, but the sound caught in her throat. She turned back to the fire, her profile sharp against the glow. The night stretched long. Nathan dozed in fragments, waking at every rustle. At one point, he caught Chenoa humming under her breath, a low melody that reminded him of river water and wind through cottonwoods. It calmed him in a way he couldn't name. When dawn finally came, grey light spilling through the cracks, the village stirred with the sound of children and smoke. Nathan rose stiffly, every bruise alive. Chenoa stood at his side, hair tangled, eyes fierce. They stepped outside together. The air was crisp, the earth damp with morning dew. Men watched from a distance, where women whispered, children stared. None spoke aloud, but the silence was its own judgment. Nathan squared his shoulders, refusing to shrink. Chenoa matched his stride, walking tall. Side by side, they crossed the village toward the well. Every gaze burned, but Nathan felt her hand brush his, once a silent anchor. For a moment, he thought the worst had passed, but then he saw him. Toby stood at the edge of the ridge, knife at his belt, eyes fixed on them. His posture was still, too still, like a predator waiting. Nathan's stomach tightened. Chenoa's voice dropped low. "He waits. Not for you alone, for both of us." The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows, and Nathan knew this was not peace. This was the calm before the storm. By midday, the village stirred with its usual rhythm. Children fetching water, women grinding maize, men sharpening blades or mending leather. But Nathan felt no normalcy. Every sound carried an edge. Every glance lingered too long. He knew eyes followed him wherever he walked. Chenoa moved beside him, head high, blanket drawn tight. She ignored the whispers, though Nathan could feel them like arrows. "They test us with silence," she said. "Waiting to see if you break," he muttered under his breath. "Feels like they're just waiting for me to bleed." Her lips tightened, but she didn't disagree. At the well, Nathan drew water, the rope groaning under the bucket's weight. Children gathered at the edge, watching him with wide eyes. One little boy asked something in Apache, pointing to Nathan's revolver. The other children giggled, scattering when a woman hissed sharply, dragging them away. Nathan offered the bucket to Chenoa. She drank, her hands steady. Then she froze, her eyes narrowing. Nathan followed her gaze. Toby stood at the far end of the square, knife at his belt, rifle slung across his shoulder. He didn't hide this time. He watched openly, his expression carved from stone. The crowd sensed it too. Voices quieted, eyes shifted. The air grew heavy, thick with expectation. Toby stepped forward, his voice carrying, "The fire spared you, stranger, but fire lies. Prove yourself here before all, or leave now and never return." The square fell silent. All eyes swung to Nathan. Nathan's chest tightened, ribs aching from the last fight. He wanted to laugh at the absurdity. He had fought, he had bled. He had stood beside Chenoa before the fire. Wasn't that enough? But in their world, nothing was enough. Survival was a constant trial. Chenoa stepped closer to him, her voice low, fierce. "If you walk away, we both die. If you fight, you must not falter." Nathan's hand brushed the revolver at his side, but he stopped. Using steel here would damn them. He had to face Toby again, bare, raw. He stepped forward, squaring his shoulders, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "I'm still here. If you want me gone, you'll have to do more than glare." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some nodded, some hissed. The scarred elder appeared at the edge of the square, his eyes unreadable. He gave no command to stop it. This was law now, conflict played out before witnesses. Toby's lips twisted. He drew the knife, spinning it once in his grip. "Then bleed, stranger." The clash came sudden. Toby lunged, faster than before, knife arcing for Nathan's side. Nathan dodged, barely, the blade grazing his shirt. Pain flared where his ribs screamed, but adrenaline carried him. He struck back, fist to Toby's jaw. The crowd shouted, some urging Toby, others silent. Chenoa's voice cut through. "Stand, Nathan!" He gritted his teeth, blocking another slash, twisting Toby's wrist. The knife clattered to the dirt. Relief surged, but Toby slammed his head forward, skull cracking against Nathan's brow. Stars exploded in his vision. He staggered, blood trickling from the cut. Toby dove for the knife again. Nathan lunged too, both men grappling in the dust. The blade flickered between their hands, inches from flesh. Voices roared, children cried, the crowd pressed tighter. Chenoa broke through the circle, shouting, "Enough!" But neither man stopped. The knife slashed, grazing Nathan's arm. Pain seared hot, but he held on, twisting Toby's wrist until the knife fell again. He kicked it away, chest heaving. They locked eyes, two men bound by hate, neither willing to yield. Then Toby spat blood into Nathan's face, shoving him back. "You will never be one of us," he hissed. "Even if you kill me, they will see you as dirt." Nathan wiped the blood from his eye, voice ragged. "I don't need to be one of you. I just need to stand by her." The words rang louder than fists. The crowd fell silent, even the elder leaning forward. Chenoa stepped beside Nathan, gripping his hand. "He is mine. I chose him. Your blade cannot change that." The elder's voice broke the stillness. "The fire judged once. The circle judged twice. This quarrel ends." His gaze burned into Toby. "Disobey again, and it is your life that ends." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, others turned away in discontent. Toby's chest heaved, his face twisted with fury. But the rifles of older warriors shifted toward him, silent warnings. He spat into the dust and stormed away, disappearing into the ridge's shadow. Nathan sagged, ribs burning, blood dripping from his cut. Chenoa steadied him, her voice low but steady. "You did not falter, they saw." He managed a grim smile. "I'm still breathing, that's something." But as he looked to the ridge where Toby vanished, his gut twisted. The fight had ended, but the war was far from over. Nathan and Chenoa win the village's public judgment, but Toby retreats into the shadows, his rage unchecked, promising danger yet to come. The crowd dispersed slowly, murmurs still heavy in the air. Nathan leaned against the well, breath shallow, blood drying on his brow. Chenoa stood beside him, her blanket pulled close, her presence steady as stone. "You showed them," she said, voice low. Nathan managed a grim smile. "Not sure I showed them enough." Her eyes scanned the ridge where Toby had vanished. For now it is enough, but he is not finished. He waits for shadow, not fire. Nathan exhaled hard. "Then we'd better be ready when the shadows come." They walked back to her father's lodge. Children peered at them from doorways, whispers trailing in their wake. Some eyes held curiosity, others contempt. Nathan felt the weight of every stare. He wasn't welcome, not truly. Survival had been earned, not acceptance. Inside, the lodge smelled of smoke and stale whiskey. Her father sat slumped again, muttering under his breath. His eyes lingered on Nathan, filled with venom. You think you've won. You've only bought time. Chenoa's jaw clenched. Your words are worth nothing. The man spat, turning his back. Nathan wanted to speak, to lash out. But Chenoa's hand on his arm silenced him. She led him to the far side, where the fire glowed faintly. You should rest, she murmured, tearing cloth to bind the cut on his arm. Nathan watched her work, struck again by her composure. You've patched too many wounds before, haven't you? Her hands stilled for a moment. Then softly, yes, some healed, some didn't. The silence that followed said more than words. Nathan realized how much she had already endured, how much she carried beneath that defiance. As night deepened, the village quieted. Nathan sat awake by the fire, revolver across his lap. Chenoa lay wrapped in her blanket, eyes closed, though he doubted she truly slept. He listened to the wind, the creak of branches, the distant howl of a coyote. Then, a rustle, too deliberate to be the wind. Nathan's body tensed. He cocked the revolver, finger on the trigger. The sound came again, closer this time, from the back of the lodge. He stood, motioning Chenoa to stay low. The hide flap at the rear shifted. A shadow slipped inside, knife glinting. Nathan raised the revolver, but another shadow appeared, then another. 3 figures now, crouched and silent. Toby's voice hissed from the dark. The fire protects you no more. Nathan's chest tightened. 3 against 1, and Chenoa caught in the middle. He steadied his aim, voice sharp. Step closer, and I swear one of you won't leave breathing. The intruders paused, knives poised. The firelight caught their eyes, young men, Toby's kin, their faces twisted with hate. Chenoa rose then, stepping beside Nathan. Her voice rang sharp. Kill us, and you defy the council. Their rifles will answer. Do you dare bring their wrath? The men faltered, exchanging glances, but Toby's voice snapped at them. Cowards! No council will hear. No dawn will see them alive. One lunged. Nathan fired. The gunshot thundered inside the lodge, deafening. The attacker crumpled, clutching his leg, blood staining the dirt. The other 2 froze, eyes wide. Nathan swung the revolver toward them. Try me next. The flap burst open. Warriors stormed in, rifles raised, drawn by the gunshot. Their eyes scanned the scene. Toby's kin caught with blades, Nathan standing firm, Chenoa at his side. The scarred elder entered last. His gaze swept the room, cold and sharp. Silence fell. Nathan's chest heaved, revolver still steady. He lowered it slowly, speaking through clenched teeth. They came to kill us. The vow means nothing to them. The elder's eyes hardened. He turned to the wounded youth on the ground, then to Toby standing outside the flap, face pale with fury. His voice was low, deadly. Enough. This ends now. Toby, you bring shame. Your kin break law. The fire will not protect you again. The warriors seized the wounded youth, dragging him out. Toby backed away, eyes blazing, but no one moved to defend him. His voice broke with rage. This is not over. The elder faced Nathan and Chenoa. The council sees your vow. It is proven in fire and in blood. From this day, none may challenge it. Nathan lowered the revolver, every muscle trembling. Relief crashed through him, but so did the weight of what had just unfolded. He wasn't free. He had survived, but survival had come with blood on the ground. Chenoa's hand found his, steady and strong. We stand, she whispered. Nathan nodded, eyes locked on the ridge beyond, but he knew, even with the elder's word, Toby's shadow would not vanish. It would only grow darker. Cliffhanger finale. The council finally accepts Nathan and Chenoa's vow. But Toby has crossed into open defiance, driven further into hatred, promising an even deadlier reckoning. The morning after the gunshot, the village felt different. The stairs were still there, but they no longer lingered with suspicion. Men nodded curtly. Women lowered their eyes. Children whispered but didn't scatter. Nathan felt it. Their vow had been accepted. Survival had shifted to something else, belonging, or at least the edge of it. But Chenoa's face remained tense, her eyes scanning every shadow. Do not mistake silence for peace, she murmured as they walked toward the well. Toby has nothing left but his hatred. That makes him more dangerous. Nathan nodded grimly. He had seen men like that before, driven not by hope, but by the need to see others fall. They were the ones who struck hardest when cornered. The elder summoned them at midday, his scarred face grave. Your vow is sealed. The council has spoken. You are free to leave, or to stay. His eyes fixed on Nathan. But the ridge is restless. Toby has vanished into the hills. He gathers anger like dry grass gathers fire. If you remain, you must be ready to face it. Nathan's jaw tightened. If we leave, he follows. If we stay, he strikes. Either way, he won't stop. The elder's silence was answer enough. That night, Nathan and Chenoa sat by the fire inside her father's lodge. The older man had disappeared. Drunk or hiding, Nathan didn't care. The flames cast long shadows across the walls. Nathan stared into them, thinking of the ridge, of Toby's eyes burning like coals in the dark. Chenoa broke the silence. He will not come alone next time. He will find others who still hate. Men who see you as a threat, not a husband. Nathan turned to her. And you? Do you see me as a husband? Her eyes didn't flinch. I see you as the man who chose to stand. That is enough for now. It wasn't affection, not yet. But it was trust. And it cut deeper than tenderness. Nathan nodded, the weight of her words settling heavy on his chest. Hours later, the village lay silent. Nathan dozed lightly, revolver close. Then a sound jolted him awake, the distant crack of wood, the sharp scent of smoke. He sat up, heart pounding. Do you smell that? Chenoa rose instantly, eyes wide. Smoke seeped through the cracks in the lodge walls. Shouts erupted outside, children crying, dogs barking. Nathan burst through the flap. The ridge glowed orange. Flames licked across the dry brush, rolling downhill toward the village. Panic surged. Men shouted orders. Women dragged water from the well. Children scattered. The fire roared like a living beast, devouring the hillside. Nathan's gut turned to stone. This wasn't an accident. The fire burned too fast and too deliberate. And on the ridge, silhouetted against the flames, he saw him, Toby, torch still in hand, knife at his belt. Their eyes met across the inferno. Toby raised the torch high, then vanished into the smoke. Chenoa's voice broke through the chaos. He means to burn us out. Nathan grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the well. We fight fire with water. Help me. Together they hauled bucket after bucket, dousing the nearest huts, shouting at villagers to form a line. Some obeyed, others froze in fear. The flames crept closer, sparks raining down like ash. The elder appeared, rallying men to cut fire breaks, axes flashing in the night. Nathan worked beside them, sweat pouring, lungs choked with smoke. Chenoa moved tirelessly, her voice strong, urging women and children to safety. But the fire kept coming. Sparks leapt from roof to roof, flames climbing higher. Nathan's arms burned with exhaustion, his ribs screamed, but he didn't stop. Then a scream split the night. A child, trapped near a burning hut, flames closing fast. Nathan dropped the bucket, sprinting through smoke. He barreled into the hut, coughing, vision blurred. He found the boy curled in the corner, eyes wide with terror. Lifting him into his arms, Nathan charged back out, heat searing his skin. Chenoa rushed to them, pulling the boy close, covering him with her blanket. He's safe, she gasped, relief flooding her eyes. But Nathan barely heard, his gaze locked on the ridge again, where Toby's silhouette flickered in the firelight. Watching, waiting. Nathan's chest heaved. He knew this was no longer just about him, or even about Chenoa. Toby had turned his vengeance into war against them all. The elder's voice roared above the chaos. Save the children! Hold the fire line. Nathan's fists clenched, fury boiling. This ends tonight, he muttered. Chenoa caught his arm, eyes burning. If you go to him now, you go alone. He waits for you to break. Nathan stared into the flames, torn between rage and reason. The fire roared louder, swallowing the night, and on the ridge, Toby raised his knife, pointing it straight at Nathan, before vanishing once more into the smoke. The night was a storm of fire and screams. Smoke clawed at the sky, sparks raining down like falling stars. Nathan staggered through the chaos, chest burning, eyes fixed on the ridge where Toby had vanished. Around him, villagers battled the inferno with buckets and shovels, their cries drowned by the roar of flames. Chenoa gripped his arm, her voice sharp. "Stay with me. If you chase him now, you'll be lost." Nathan's jaw tightened. "If I don't end this, he'll burn us all." The elder's voice bellowed nearby, rallying men to cut fire breaks. But even as they worked, the fire spread faster, licking at roofs, devouring fences. Panic rippled through the village. Nathan knew Toby's plan wasn't just destruction, it was humiliation to prove the outsider's vow brought only ruin. Through the smoke, a shadow darted. Toby. He slipped between huts, torch in hand, striking again and again, igniting what little the villagers had saved. Nathan lunged after him, revolver drawn. He fired once, the shot cracking through the night, but Toby vanished into the haze. Chenoa followed close, her blanket drawn tight, eyes fierce. "He wants you to chase. He wants to kill you where no one sees." Nathan's teeth clenched. "Then we'll make him seen." They moved together through the burning chaos, following the trail of fire Toby left behind. At last, they cornered him near the corral, flames rising on either side. Horses screamed, trapped by the blaze. Toby stood in the firelight, knife in one hand, torch in the other. His face gleamed with sweat and fury. "You don't belong here, stranger. You never will." Nathan raised the revolver, but Toby laughed. "Shoot me, and they'll call you murderer. Fight me, and they'll see you for what you are, weak." Nathan's chest heaved. His ribs ached, his arm throbbed, but he lowered the gun. "Then let's finish it." He tossed the revolver into the dirt. The crowd was gathering now, warriors, women, children, all drawn by the fire and the fight, eyes glowed in the smoke, witnesses to the final reckoning. Toby grinned, dropping the torch. Flames roared higher around them, caging the arena. He lunged, knife flashing. Nathan dodged, fists raised, but pain seared his side where the blade grazed him. He countered with a hard punch to Toby's jaw, sending him reeling. The crowd shouted, voices clashing, some urging Nathan, others Toby. Chenoa's cry rose above them all. "Stand, Nathan!" Toby came again, wild, slashing with fury. Nathan caught his wrist, twisting hard. The knife clattered to the ground, but Toby slammed into him, driving him back toward the flames. Heat seared Nathan's skin, the smell of burning wood choking his lungs. With a desperate surge, Nathan shoved him off, sending both crashing into the dirt. The knife gleamed between them. They dove, grappling, rolling in the smoke. Chenoa broke from the crowd, shouting, "Enough! This ends here!" Toby's hand closed on the knife. He raised it high, eyes blazing. Nathan caught his wrist, muscles screaming, fighting to hold the blade back. For a breathless moment, death hung inches from his chest. And then Chenoa's voice cut through, steady as stone. "If you kill him, you kill me too. Our vow is one. Do you defy it before your own people?" The words struck like thunder. The crowd fell silent. Even Toby froze, rage twisting into disbelief. His grip faltered just enough. Nathan seized the moment. With all his strength, he twisted Toby's wrist, ripping the knife free. He flung it into the fire, the blade swallowed by flames. Then he drove Toby into the dirt, pinning him, fists raised. The crowd surged closer, shouting, but Nathan didn't strike. He stared down at Toby, chest heaving, blood dripping. "I could kill you, but I won't. Not because I fear you, because I won't become you." The elder's voice rang out, louder than the fire. "The vow stands. The fight is ended. Toby, you have brought shame and destruction. You are cast out." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Warriors seized Toby, dragging him to his feet. He struggled, screamed, but no one came to his aid. His eyes locked on Nathan, hatred burning, but his power was gone. Chenoa rushed to Nathan, steadying him as his knees buckled. Her hands pressed against his wound, her voice fierce. "You stood. They saw. You live." The crowd shifted, murmurs rising, not with suspicion now, but something else. Respect. Acceptance. The fire still roared, but buckets and hands worked together, fighting it back. Nathan realized the battle wasn't just his, It was theirs. As Toby's screams faded into the night, carried away by the warriors, Nathan met Chenoa's gaze. Her eyes were wet, but steady. For the first time, he saw not just survival in them, but choice. And in that moment, bruised and bloodied in the glow of fire, he understood. Their vow was no longer just a shield. It was real. Dawn broke over the canyon, pale light chasing the smoke into the sky. The fire was beaten back, leaving charred earth and blackened timbers where homes once stood. The village stood in silence, weary but unbroken. Buckets lay scattered, hands raw from labor, children curled against their mothers. They had survived the night. Nathan sat near the well, his shirt torn, ribs bound with cloth, every muscle screaming with exhaustion. Chenoa knelt beside him, washing soot from his face with cool water. Her touch was steady, her eyes calmer than he had ever seen them. "You saved more than me," she said quietly. Nathan's gaze drifted across the village, warriors repairing fences, women comforting the young, men patting his shoulder as they passed. For the first time, their eyes didn't weigh him like an intruder. They looked at him as one who stood, who fought, who bled with them. "I only did what had to be done," he muttered. Chenoa's lips curved faintly. "That is what makes it enough." The elder approached, leaning heavily on his staff. His scarred face bore new lines etched by smoke and fatigue. He studied Nathan for a long moment before speaking. "The fire took much, but it showed us more. You stood when others would have run. You fought not just for her but for us all. From this day no man will question your vow." Nathan inclined his head, though words stuck in his throat. Acceptance was a heavier gift than he'd expected. The elder turned to Chenoa. "Daughter of the river, your defiance saved us as much as his strength. You faced blade and flame with no fear. That courage is now part of this people's story." Chenoa bowed her head slightly, though her eyes burned with quiet pride. As the elder walked away, Nathan leaned close to her. "So, what now?" She met his gaze, steady as the rising sun. "Now we choose. We can leave and build a life far from these hills, or stay and shape something from the ashes. But whatever comes, we face it together." Nathan looked out over the village, the scorched ridge, the smouldering remains of the night's chaos. He thought of his years drifting, alone and unmoored. He thought of her, fierce and unyielding, bound to him first by law, then by survival, and now by something more. Together. The word felt like an anchor, but also a beginning. He smiled faintly, wincing from the ache in his ribs. "Together, then." Chenoa's hand found his, fingers weaving through his, firm and sure. No vows spoken this time, no fire as witness, only the morning sun and the silent understanding between them. The village stirred with new life. Children laughed again, chasing each other across the ash. Women hummed while sweeping debris. Men hauled fresh logs to rebuild what was lost. From ruin, something new was rising. And on the far ridge, the smoke cleared, leaving only silence. Toby was gone, cast out, his threat broken, for now. But Nathan knew shadows lingered. Hatred didn't vanish, it waited. Still, he also knew that when it came again, they would stand as one. As the sun climbed higher, Nathan rose slowly, leaning on Chenoa's arm. Together they walked through the village, each step a promise not just to survive, but to live. For the first time, Nathan felt he wasn't wandering anymore. He had found a place, not in land or people, but in the bond forged beside the river, before the fire, in the ashes of the night. Their vow was no longer a shield. It was home. Sometimes, life binds two people in ways neither planned nor imagined, through fire, through blood, through choices made in moments of fear. Nathan and Chenoa's story shows us that courage isn't found in strength alone, but in standing for one another, even when the world turns against you. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful tales like this one. And if you want to keep the journey alive, watch the next story we've prepared for you. It's waiting, just a click away.